7:30 or just after, and we will move to item number 3 of your plans. Mrs. McShane has given due notice of a deputation. What she hasn't done is actually given us the script of that, which, strictly speaking, the Constitution requires. I'm going to ask you, members, if you are prepared to hear that deputation in absence of a submitted written script. Could I have a formal proposal, please? Mr. Dale, yes, and all those in favour, please. Mr. Oxton seconded, and all those in favour. Fine. I think that is the sensible decision, Mr. Shane, but, and thank you, members. So if I do the usual thing, ask the officer for a brief presentation, and then ask you to give your deputation. Over to the officer then, please. Sorry.
Hear me, there's a mixture of voice and microphone. It's a bit calmer now. This application relates to a piece of land at the western end of what was phase 1 of the Hawksmead development, which was this yellow area here. And the application site is there marked in red. It was originally shown on the approved master plan as part of the outline application as being allotments. This is an extract from the master plan. There's also another area of allotments at this end of the site, which shield the residential development from the factory at McKenzie on Land's End Way. The application has now come forward to put 9 additional dwellings on this site. The issues are set out in the report. If we hear the deputation, I'll give you the full presentation.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, can I just interrupt 2 seconds? Declare an interest in, as far as I did say last time, that I am the president of the Open Allotment Society, but I did take legal advice and I am allowed to stop. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dale. Ms. McShane.
Thank you. I'm a resident of Main Road, Barleythorpe, and I'm here to present my own views on this application, and also those of other residents who live in the estate cottages that face onto Main Road. We've attended all of the original exhibitions about this development, including the public consultation at the castle some years ago. From the outset, the developers stated they would protect the historical integrity of Barleythorpe and provide green space in the allotments as a separation between the new dwellings and the original cottages on Main Road. On the basis of this assurance, the residents of Main Road have not objected to this development. Had we known that this application would come forward, we would have strongly objected at outline stage. The proposal will have an adverse effect on the communities of residents on Main Road. Some of the proposed new dwellings front onto the rear dwellings of the houses on Main Road and will result in a loss of privacy and overlooking. The proposed access road and driveways of these properties will create noise and disturbance from traffic noise and light pollution from street lights and headlights, and will create a total suburbanisation of what are in fact 9 rural cottages which were originally part of Lord Lonsdale's estate. The proposal is contrary to policies that involves a loss of allotment land, which is contrary to the core strategy. The proposed allotment land formed an important green structure on this very overdeveloped and high-density site. There is no evidence that there is no demand for allotments in this area of the town. There are waiting lists for allotments on other sites. Positioned where they are, the proposed allotments will not only benefit existing and new residents of Barleythorpe, but residents from Oakham and beyond, and Langham Parish. It is premature to remove these allotments at this stage. The development has not been completed and not fully occupied. It is therefore not possible at this stage to assess demand, and there are several residents on Main Road who are keen to take up allotments when they're completed. If there is no proven demand for allotments, well, let's have a green walkway through which will adjoin the cycleway, as all the green space between Barleythorpe and Oakham has now disappeared. The Development Control and Licensing Committee should resist any attempt to reduce the amount of green infrastructure on this site. Oakham and Barleythorpe have very little open space that can be used by the general public. The land adjacent to the former park site has now been built upon, and the open space, trees and hedgerows near the old agricultural field will soon be lost. The residents of Barleythorpe have received very little in terms of planning gain from this massive development, which has been transformed with which was once a rural hamlet into a large, overdense housing development. The proposed community centre has been lost to us, and now the allotments. In fact, another comment, I know it's not the province of this committee, but you've even taken our bus stop away from us. I'd like to ask the Development Control and Licensing Committee to refuse this application and not allow Larkfleet Homes to disregard their early commitment to provide green space and allotments. Finally, Chairman, I'd like to say, if the committee is minded to grant this application, I request that a suitably worded condition be attached to the permission. The construction work should only be carried out between the hours of 8 a.m. in the morning and 1800 hours in the evening, and 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock on Saturdays. There should be no construction or other works on Sundays or bank holidays, and that condition should be enforced by this council.
You are out of time.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, there is someone, sorry, I haven't a name, I do apologise, but the right to reply. Mr. Slater, I gather.
Thank you, Chair. Chairman, members of the Planning Committee. My name is Tim Slater of 3D Planning, and I'm here to speak in support of the application before you on behalf of Hawksmead. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to address you. I wish to commend your officer's report and I'm grateful for the advice and amendments they have suggested through the pre-application process and indeed within the development process itself. You'll be aware that this is an application for full planning permission, not an application for reserve matters pursuant to the outline or the subsequent Section 73 permission on Oakham Heights. Although it lies within the overall development site of Oakham Heights, it could not be a reserve matter because it's not compliant, as has been pointed out, with the approved master plan. You will be aware that reserve matters submissions are required to be compliant with the base permission and subsequent approved documents. It is therefore correct that this came through as a full application. It is, of course, however, linked to the assumptions made within the original Oakham Heights development. The key background to this current application is the emerging realisation that the development of Oakham Heights will not deliver the 1,096 homes as originally planned. It is likely, on current projections, that this will be about 1,000, which is a reduction of about 9%. The knock-on impacts of this deficit is that elements of the permission, such as open space, which were worked out on a pro-rata basis, are now 9% over-provided. And it is the case that there was an excess of open space, comparable with your policy requirements at the time when Oakham Heights was originally approved. The provision of allotments within the overall Oakham Heights development, the east of Phase 1, was more than sufficient to meet the needs of the Oakham Heights development, and as such there was not, and is not, a policy requirement for this area to be retained as allotments. It is against this background that I would summarise the application will provide a net additional 9 homes. The design is consistent with the adjacent homes within Phase 1. The proposal is compliant with your current policy guidance in relation to affordable housing in Section 106. It will provide surveillance and security to the main footpath through Oakham Heights to the college, which runs between the site and Main Road Barleythorpe. It does not, in our view, have significant adverse impacts on the amenity of adjoining properties. Thank you very much for your time and your attention.
For questions, Mr. Lammy.
Yes, it's just a point. If I could just seek clarification from the master plan. You say that the allotments were over-provided in the master plan.
Yes.
Were you part of the Hawksmead submitted the master plan?
I don't think so.
No, the Hawksmead is relevant. It's just to put the master plan in and say we will provide this, and then to come back and say they're all provided, seems quite illogical to me. It's, if you can, I can't see you're over-provided at this front stage, where surely you would have wanted to put the minimum in at the first stage, because you can obviously make profit off the houses, then having allotments there. So just, you're saying it's over-provided, but Hawksmead submitted the original application with that in. So there will be a loss. I mean, it's just like, it seems illogical, your initial submission of the master plan, based on the fact you're now saying that we are provided. But that's just a... I suppose, but as you said, you didn't submit it, so I can't... It may be unfair to you.
Sorry, was that a question?
I was going to say, I'm trying to work out what the question was.
Well, sorry, we brought it by his deputation, and I do apologise for taking time. As you said, you didn't submit it, but if you'd like to comment on how you can say it's an open provision when you put it in the master plan, that's that much.
I can't explain why it was shown as a lot in the original.
I saw Mrs. Cartwright next, and I think Mr. Gale, sorry, you're behind Mr. Woodcock's head, but yeah, I'll take you up, Mrs. Cartwright, yeah.
Yes, thank you. You say that there's a shortfall in the number of houses that are being built. My question is, how has this come about, and why was the master plan followed so that there wouldn't be a shortfall?
Through you, Chair, the shortfall has arisen through the Charles Church and the Bellway applications. It's my understanding that Hawksmead didn't have direct control. I do apologise.
Yeah.
Do you want me to repeat?
If you would, please, yes. I will we'll take the time out, don't worry.
I beg your pardon. The shortfall arose through the Charles Church and the Bellway applications, and they were both, I think one was about 25 under and one was about 50 under, and consequently they weren't developments that Hawksmead had a direct control over.
Mr. Gale?
I don't believe that the numbers in the development, the number of houses in the development, is a planning consideration. I'll stand corrected if that's the case. Quite clearly, Hawksmead considered that to be an important green area. Being one of the longest serving, I'm going to come to the question, being one of the longest serving councillors on this council, we've always said that there should be a green strip from top to bottom to keep Barleythorpe separate. You've accepted that as a company, and would you, why are you now reneging on a previous commitment to the board?
I mean, the original application was made an outline, and we accept that we're not compliant with that, which is why it's had to come as an independent full. It could not come as a reserve matter. We believe circumstances have changed, and there is now no longer a need, in terms of quantum of open space, for that to be retained as green space.
Can I have that cleared up about whether that's a planning consideration regarding the numbers or not?
Could an officer answer that, please?
I think it's a consideration. The amount of weight that you lend to it is, as ever, down to the decision maker. It remains to be seen what the final total of dwellings will be on there, and how that might or may not be addressed. But whether you want to lend any weight to that at this stage is a matter for you. It is a consideration. It's a planning consideration.
We are now out of time, member. There is a minute left, yes. I have a question for you, please. You said that you had no control over the two, I think you mentioned Bellway and one after that. We have been looking at these individual things for reserved matters, and yet you're now telling us that the outline doesn't control what is happening on the individual specific applications. Am I reading you correctly, that you have no control over these individual bits?
So, apologies. Chair, the applications for reserve matters made by Charles Church and Bellway were made by them, and as such, Hawksmead effectively sold them the sites with the outline planning permission, which said up to X dwellings on the site, and they've made commercial decisions and provided less than that.
Yeah, I mean, I will save my comments for the debate. Yes. Yeah. Mr. Woodcock,
So
I think we've still got time. Yes.
Yeah, just a point of clarification here. You say you actually sold that land to Bellway. Sorry, was it the Charles Church? The Charles Church. So
That's my understanding.
yeah, it was sold.
Yes.
So you gained a financial gain from that.
Right, I would
I
imagine so. I couldn't tell you how much it is.
I'm going to advise legally that's not a relevant question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we are now out of time. Thank you, Mr. Slater.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for Mr. Chair. We'll now go to the full presentation from the officer, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so we've established that this is the application site here in red. These are the cottages on the main road frontage in Barleythorpe. This is the Barleythorpe main road. The new entrance to the site at the top there now wends its way all the way through the development, at least down to this point, which is the bottom end of phase 1. The application for phase 10 here is on your agenda to be considered later this evening. That's the red line application site. Curiously, it includes all the roadways to get access to that site, but essentially the development is in this parcel of land here. Going back to the master plan, which this is an extract of, it was always the purpose of the master plan to create or retain a green edge to Barleythorpe. In fact, it's referred to as the Barleythorpe edge in the master plan. And members can see this purple area here, letter H, is all to remain as open space. This is the main road, Barleythorpe here. All that land, which is about 30 to 50 metres wide, behind that hedge is to remain as open space to complement that strip of open space that's been retained on the other side of the road. Then beyond the cottages and the allotments which are in that particular location there is the park. All of this area here is known as Hawksmead Park, or it was known as Hawksmead Park. There's then another row of cottages here with some new ones behind them. And then the Charles Church development, which is in this area, between the Charles Church development and, again, between the main road frontage, there is what's described as a woodland strip that is retained, again, as a buffer all the way along that edge. So in terms of the impact on the edge of Barleythorpe, this particular area of land is located immediately behind properties that already front onto the main road. So it is slightly different in its nature to those areas that front the main road all the way through. So the plan on the top right there is the original approved layout for phase 1, and you can see that it retained the land and indicated them as allotments, as the master plan did. And between the allotments and this hedge, which is the rear hedge boundary to the main road properties, a cycle path is to be created where it comes down the main road Barleythorpe, cuts in through the park and comes down and exits again at this point through into which is the phase 10 ground. The new proposal involves the replanning of 4 plots, which are indicated by the R in a circle, those 4 there, and the 5th replan, if you like, is the actual loss of a plot at that point there. And then the new properties are these within this area along here. Now again, you can see the area outlined by the purple line are the existing allotment gardens, where there's a track that runs down the middle of those, and you'll see photographs from that area in due course. This house here is located on the end of Horseshoe Close, which was part of the extended area of phase 1, and those properties now are occupied. That property there has its front elevation facing out in this direction. And this house here has its rear elevation facing that way, so it doesn't have 2 main rear elevations facing. You'll see that these properties here in terms of looking in this direction, look towards the allotment gardens, and you'll see the height of the hedge along that boundary in due course. And all the way along this edge, between the cycle path and the development, is an access road. So any dwellings in this location that would be looking towards the rear of properties on Main Road, which are located between that purple line there and that line there, there are 1, 2, 3 and part of a fourth one that have views in that direction from their front elevation. They overlook a public space, which is a road, and a further public space, which is a cycle path. Beyond that is a hedge with trees in it along that rear boundary. But importantly, you'll note that the distance between the backs of these houses and their rear boundaries, or at least between the houses and the new properties, is anything in excess of 70 metres, which members of the committee will be aware is well beyond the normal minimum that you would expect between properties in that sort of relationship. But these are just an indication of the flavour of the houses there. They do reflect largely the properties that have already been built around phase 1. Similar designs, similar materials. They're all 2-storey. There are 3 affordable houses provided as part of this new block of 9. In terms of the open space requirement, the original Hawksmead development, in terms of the local plan, would have required 0.4 of a hectare per thousand population, but it's actually provided 0.89 of a hectare. And the overall open space requirement from the local plan would have been 6.3 hectares, whereas 8.64 was actually provided, and that's excluding the new playing fields to the north of the bypass. That's purely open space provided within the housing site, within the bypass. As the report points out, in terms of allotment provision, and members will be aware that they can't require this particular scheme, or they can't require the Hawksmead development to make recompense for any shortfall in allotments elsewhere. It can only cater for its own deficit. The National Allotment Society recommends 20 allotments per 1,000 households. And as I said earlier, the allotments at the eastern end of phase 1, there are 36 allotments there. So that well exceeds the recommendation of the National Society of 20 for what will be around 1,000 dwellings on the scheme. This is a photograph from Main Road, Barleythorpe. This is the property that's next to the allotments, which are in here. This photograph was taken when the land subject of the application was being used, as it still is, I think, as the soil storage compound and the builder's compound for the rest of phase 1. It hasn't actually ever been used as allotments yet. That's a photograph from Google Street View looking over the allotments towards that land at the back, giving you an idea of the relationship between Main Road and the back. This is on the allotment site. That's that new house at the end of the close there that I referred to earlier, that one there. That's that property. This is the rear elevation we're looking at. And this is the hedge with the tree in it, which you can see there, which forms the boundary to the application site on the other side. So you can see that's quite a substantial hedge. That's looking directly down the middle of the allotment. You can see the new housing in the distance coming towards that boundary. That's along the back of the properties on Main Road, so you can see the sort of nature of their gardens. Again, that's a close-up of this hedge along the rear of the allotments, and a view that shows you the front elevation of that property. That's looking back from the allotments, again back towards properties on Main Road, where there's quite a bit of screening along that particular boundary. And again, looking through, that building that you can see in there, I think is this building here in the back garden of that property. This is a view through the bottom end of the site from where phase 10 would be. Clearly it wasn't possible to get in there to make a detailed assessment of the boundary at the rear of the Hawksmead, of the Main Road cottages. But I think you got a flavour of the nature of that boundary and the trees that are clearly on the boundary there from those other photographs. This is from the temporary access road at the southern end of the cottages. This is the southern boundary to the Main Road cottages, and you can see across there Phase 1 is now progressing up towards this boundary, and that's a view further to the left from where the previous one was, again along the rear of the cottages on the main road. So those are the main issues that you need to consider. The principle of development, well, it's within the plan limits of development. It is a full application because, as has been explained, it doesn't accord with the outline permission and the master plan, which did show open space there. In terms of the allotments, there are 36 provided, so there's a significant over provision there. In terms of residential amenity, the particular impact has been expressed from the residents of Main Road and the impact on those cottages. And clearly those new buildings would be visible from the backs of those properties. But because of the length of the garden, as we've explained and indicated on the plan, officers are of the view that it would be very difficult to justify refusal on the grounds of loss of residential amenity. There was an objection from the Environment Agency when the application was first submitted, but a revised flood risk assessment has been assessed and the Environment Agency has now withdrawn that. In terms of the other issues, affordable housing, as I said, 3 units would be provided via a Section 106 agreement, and the normal range of developer contributions have been agreed in principle with the developer, such that if permission is granted, that legal agreement can be commenced. In terms of the request from the Deputy about conditions on construction work, just draw members' attention to condition 5 on page 35 of your agenda, which does set out a condition that reflects the condition on the outline permission for the original scheme. So the wording of that will be identical to that on the outline permission, that would also relate to this one. Just going back, just one more point, thinking about it on the provision of the allotments on the master plan. If I just go back quickly to that, and I did allude to it earlier to a small extent, and that is that whilst the master plan came in showing allotments at both ends, the allotments at this end were never requested by officers to be provided in that location. They did come forward as part of the submitted master plan. They weren't requested, unlike the ones at this end, which were specifically requested because of the concerns of your environmental health officers in particular about the impact of noise from the McAlty factory, which is a very active business and is continually looking to expand, very successful local business, but they have expressed some concern about the noise that they make, and they've been involved in developing the layout for phase 9, which is yet to be submitted because of a similar impact on properties in this location. So the provision of allotments there was a specific requirement because of a specific purpose, but the ones at that end weren't specifically required by the officers.
Years, 5 or 6 years, probably at least, that we had a commitment in Barleythorpe that at all stages through the development, Hawksby would consult with the local population, people of Barleythorpe and of Langham. Doesn't seem to have been the case here. The application that we've got to support tonight, wrong word, the application we have to determine tonight, as it is, I couldn't possibly support. However, I think there is scope for some sort of compromise. It's not that many years ago since we allowed a development right on the side of the railway line by the Tesco stores, 3-4 stories high, and yet we're concerned about building by McAlty's. I believe that if Hawksby get together with our officers and the people of Barleythorpe, then I think an alternative scheme could be approved that would retain the majority of that green area that is outlined in red. And I think that's the way we should be going. But it's this application we're going to determine tonight. At the moment, I can't possibly support it. We hear stories about the development is not complete yet, so we don't know about what uptake is going to be. We've heard that the rents that they're requesting for these supermarkets are out of this world, and no one's going to be paying to grow vegetables. If effectively that's what it would be. So my point at the moment is to go against this application, but very willing to meet with the applicants, meet with their officers, meet with people in the Barleythorpe to find something that could be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. Mr. Rutland, you...
Yes, I concur with exactly what Mr. Gale has said. I think the change to the original plan is too much. There needs to be discussion, and at the moment, no, I can't support the application.
Other members, Mr. Oxley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I remember well when the application first came to this committee, the outline application for the whole development, and I do distinctly remember that it was mentioned the importance of this green corridor along to act as a cushion between the village of Barleythorpe and the development. What we are asked to do this evening is to overturn pretty much that outline of planning permission which was given all those years ago when we were shown pictures reminiscent of what's been happening in Dorset, Prince Charles's development in Dorset. And what we are faced with now that the houses are being built is quite a long way away from what I was expecting, unfortunately, sadly. And I would be very disappointed, I must say, if we were to lose this corridor, this green corridor along the edge. I mean, we've got to look at other areas of the development in coming weeks, and will there be whittling away at those as time goes on? Some of the applications we've got to look at this evening, there are changes to what we were expecting. So again, I am very unhappy with this development, and I'll wait to hear what everybody else says, but I am minded to refuse.
Thank you. Other members? Mr. Dale, sorry.
Stand up, Mr. Chairman, or
no, I think your voice is sufficiently schooled to carry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very disappointed with this. When the application came at the beginning, we very much wanted this green belt to continue all the way through, so that Barleythorpe kept its own entity. With the allotments, we keep saying that there's 1,000 houses there, but allotments are open to anybody, as I understand, so it could be the people out of Oakham coming and wanting allotments there, if the price was right. I won't go into that now, but the other thing that really upsets me is that these are qualified people that come up and do these designs on here, and then suddenly something happens and they've got to alter it to make up the numbers. Now, if you've sold 2 sites off there and they're not built to the numbers, that shouldn't be our problem to find other sites on what remains to put other houses on. I don't think that's right at all. Can I ask you, the leader did email me this afternoon, can I ask officers, are they satisfied, because he'd had 2 emails from residents in Horseshoe Close, is it, that's there, about the drainage. They're worried about the drainage because there has been problems there already.
Yes, Chairman, one of the residents of Horseshoe Close has been in correspondence with us about drainage issues there. I have explained to him that the council doesn't have any technical department. It's difficult to know what has actually happened on the ground in terms of the drainage, and we do need some expert advice on it, particularly the only people that I can think of in that respect is the Environment Agency. The enforcement officer has been to meet that gentleman on site and have a look at the problem. I have explained to the gentleman that the determination of this application can't hinge on what problems there might be on that particular site, and those problems there really need to be dealt with separately. In terms of the drainage from this site, the drainage does fall. I mean, the area we're talking about with the problem is in here, but the drainage from this development is quite clearly shown as connecting on both the foul and the surface water into the sewers that have been laid within phase 1, and that all falls away in this direction. So in terms of the consideration of this application, it's not considered that that particular problem, albeit officers acknowledge that it does exist, and we have been trying to assist and will continue to do so. But in terms of the impact on this application, we feel that's a separate matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just finally, Mr. Chairman, can I just say that, as I said earlier, that this is an important piece of green belt there. I do think it does detract from the houses on the main road, and I really don't think I could support this tonight.
I've got Mr. Cross and then Mrs. Cartwright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would be very disturbed if this committee decided to go against the implied promises made to the residents of Barleythorpe, the most precious village. We have had years of this development. We understood what was to be done with it. I concur with Councillor Oxley's views on the results so far. Imagination, tradition, quality seems to have gone out the window, and I will leave my comments right there.
Thank you. Mrs. Cartwright.
Thank you. I'm disappointed to see that this application is coming from on the proposed allotment site, because I recall at the time where, before the outline was approved, the developer was offering more than was strictly speaking necessary, because it was acknowledged that a development of this scale would have an impact on the time settlement of Barleythorpe. So it seemed reasonable that they would offer more. But it seems now that the lowering of the density in the north is at the expense of a higher density in the south. And it occurs to me that, especially when we come to look at the next application, that with a higher density there, and presumably smaller gardens, there may be a greater demand for allotments from people who are not yet living in those houses. So it's not known at the moment whether those allotments are needed, but I suspect there might be.
Right. Any other members at different points? In that case, I would just take... Sorry. I saw it was Fleming. I thought you were...
Like other members, I'm not particularly happy that it was included and dropped out. And also they reported the inflated rates. I don't know if we can substantiate that, but in fact it's been reported they've been put at above market prices. Days are viewed from the last application. But with the other side of it, outside the end, will there be a provision of how many allotments are looking to be there? And because you're saying there's an over provision on the east, but then you're saying next to the factory there will be there's a provision there as well.
There's 32 proposed in that area there.
32 proposed in that area there.
Yeah.
If houses were built, if this was approved, how much would that bring down the amount of green space approved for the site? Because you said we're above it at the moment. How close would that bring it to the approved master plan threshold?
I've not got the overall site area for this application to hand, but it would still be considerably over-provided because there was 2.3 hectares over-provided.
Thank you. I'm just conscious that, I mean, we have in previous decisions, I remember the, I can't remember the specific development, but on the boundary of Barleythorpe, there was an application to reduce the density of houses there to accommodate it, and I think as Councillor Cartwright has alluded to, we're now getting the salami-sized knock-on effects. So I'm not happy with the application, however, I've minded to
go with officers with a heavy heart on policy or beer.
Right. I will just... sorry.
One, I don't think locality can compete with the railway for noise. And two, I hope Hawksmead will honour their agreement to the people of Barleythorpe to sit down and talk because there is scope within that development to keep everyone happy. And I hope as they're here tonight, I hope they will take that opportunity to speak with the people of Barleythorpe before they take any further action.
I would just endorse what other people have been saying and pick up on my question to the representative. I'm frankly appalled that if somebody makes a mistake of 9%, we then have our housing supply put at risk. But on the more general thing, as Mr Oxley said, and as he and I both said on the previous meeting, we were given a Poundsbury, we're getting a Peckham. And I'm sorry, the overall impression, I'll just don't buy this statistics thing, the over-provision was at the request of the outline developer. And we accepted it because we saw it as having plenty of green space. And I do take the point, I'm well aware of the demarcation distance from the houses, but it's not that, it's the impression. We were under the impression that Barleythorpe was going to have that protected green area. Now, the developer put that in. We didn't ask for it. The officer made it perfectly clear. We didn't ask for those allotments. We didn't ask for an over-provision of 2% of open space, but we approved the plan as submitted, the outline plan. And I found very strongly that these nibbling away, you referred to salami slicing, is actually endangering the impression, the overall impression of what we approved in the outline plan. And I certainly can't support this as it stands, but may I have a proposal, please?
I propose.
Mr. Propose rejection.
I do.
Yep. Seconder? Second. Mr. Woodcock? And those in favour, please. And reasons? Yes. Present planning reasons, the removal of the green line, shall we say, between the existing settlement and the other one, and the principle of development, which has now been altered, I would say. Are there any other points, members? I think that's sufficient, Mr. Hodges. Mr. Cullen.
You can certainly argue the loss of the green space as part of that continuing strip through the edge of Barleythorpe. I'm not convinced that a reason in terms of residential amenity impact would stand up. But
is there any way we can refer to consultation with the local community, or lack of consultation?
Yes. In terms of this application, it's gone through the statutory consultation process, and site notices have been put up, residents have been notified, people know about it, they've made representations on it.
Well, we have the proposal and the second, and we have a reason. Personally, I think if it's a strong reason, that's enough. But I'll look to officers. I say one reason, if it's a strong reason, is sufficient.
It's the basis for a reason.
Yes.
There's no point in putting reasons on that
no, exactly.
Sustainable.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Oxley.
Can I say, Mr. Chairman, I do distinctly remember during the presentations, prior to us looking at this and giving permission, I distinctly remember a green corridor was mentioned, and this is flying in the face of that initial promise. And that's
our recollections coincide.
It's not the loss of the allotments, it's the loss of the space between residents of the village and this new development.
Yep.
And we were
Can I possibly say...
No, sorry, you can't interrupt, sorry.
Okay, and I think that's a good enough reason for us to reject this.
Yeah, so that's the reason. So as proposed and seconded, those in favour of rejection of that application? And in favour of the officer's report? 2. And abstentions? 1. That is duly not approved. Again, if members from Barleythorpe members of the public wish to disappear, but it's a quiet evening on television, you're very welcome to stay for the rest of the evening.